the community forum in May
Yeah.
versus at the time of, to give people an opportunity to start thinking about the questions if they're planning to come. We weren't sure.
So, yeah, so a couple quick responses to that. We typically coordinate the online tool being published after the events, largely because we really want to encourage people to come to the events. And we have had some experiences in the past where if we promote the online tool earlier than the events, it can hinder event participation. And it sometimes gets a little confusing when we're promoting both at the same time. And the second part is that we have a tight timeline for designing the materials. And so in terms of the timing of us producing the posters and the maps, et cetera, and aligning with posting the online tool, however many, days or week or et cetera, before the events. I'm not quite sure how that would work with timing as well.
That's fine. It was just a question. We kicked it around, and
Yeah.
I had made a note of it just so that we could ask you. So I kind of figured that it would risk, people not showing up.
Yeah.
Because they felt they could do that. So, but that's fine. Totally makes sense.
Any other questions? And thanks, Bridget. That was a good item to bring up. Okay. So we provided you with a list of materials that we are hoping to create for these two community forum events. It was a very long packet. I think it was about 13 pages. And so I'm curious to know how far people have gotten in their review. We know that it was sent to you a little late. And so again, we've been working through a relatively rigorous timeline. And so we understand that you might not have had time to review all of that content. And so we can talk about what the best timeline moving forward is. I know that you have next Monday held for a meeting to continue this conversation if needed. And so I want to give you all some space to talk about that internally as well. But the packets that we provided you basically include the proposed material content by station topic. So each of the town facilities and services, recreation, et cetera. And it includes a list of the map or maps that we were envisioning at each station, as well as
nothing as serious as last week, and then we'll clear out again after that for Sunday and Monday.
Here, thank you.
Oh, sorry, who's that?
I got it muted.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I can't see everyone's faces, so. Okay, and you'll also see in that packet content that we are considering for each of the informational posters. We most likely are going to have to, we might not be able to show all of it, but we did want to include the different content that we're considering for you all to see so that you can get an idea for what they're going to look like. These are not formatted. So we'll show you a couple examples of what some of the posters typically look like as we go through these slides. But typically that information is formatted through infographics and tables and other ways that is a little bit more easier to navigate and illustrative to the viewer. And they're really meant to provide anyone who attends these events or fills out the online tool background information that we've been learning throughout this process of diving deeper into each of the topics to help them in answering the discussion questions and just to spark their thinking about the future of Enfield in relation to some of these big issues. And so you'll see that every station that is typically set up, this is a very typical kind of station that we're viewing in this photo where there's a box and, discussion question handouts that are filled out are placed in the box. Posters are standing on easels or hung up around the room by station and provide anyone who's attending with that information. Here's just another example station that shows, a map. It shows a poster with some information that is pertinent to that particular topic. And so they're typically arranged throughout the room on the perimeter. And so this is a good shot that shows you some of the different stations by topic with some of the maps and posters hung up. In the middle of the room, we often will have tables where people can, bring their worksheets if they want to sit and fill them out in a little bit more of an open area. Sometimes the stations can feel a little congested to fill handouts out if there is a relatively big group that's present. Are there any questions so far as in terms of just kind of the station setup and how some of these posters and maps are going to be oriented in the room? Or suggestions? We're open to it all.
I have a question, and that is, would it be helpful if there were more than one person at a station?
So we typically don't assign volunteers to stations at all specifically. So what we've noticed in the past, we often will suggest floating. What we've noticed in the past is that sometimes having someone kind of like station an area, it can influence how people decide to interact or provide feedback in that particular place. For whatever reason, human psychology, I'm sure, is part of that. But we have noticed that when it's a little bit more informal, people tend to linger and feel more comfortable being at a station and exploring it at their own leisure, for lack of better words.
Okay.
And Liz,
So-
I'll just add to that too, that we typically will have a welcome table at the beginning of the event. That is something that having volunteers like man that table to just welcome people and into the event is typically where we'll ask for that type of, guidance.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great point. That's also where we can collect names and email addresses for anyone. Oftentimes we'll send a follow-up email to everyone who attended the events afterwards, that thanking them for coming, thanking them for taking time out of their schedules to help guide this planning process, and also sending them the online tool link. So hopefully they can forward that email to other people that they know, which will encourage them to do in the email, and begin getting the word out that way about the online tool.
So it is very much self-directed.
Very
you said.
self-directed, yes. And we've had really, really good feedback with this method. In general, we've noticed that people, and this is a general statement. Some, of course, really like to dive deep into small group conversations and stuff like that. But this has been a really good way to get broad feedback from a variety of different community members. And we have a lot of folks that say, oh, I actually enjoyed this when they leave, which is awesome. We want people to feel empowered to be part of the planning process and not frustrated.
So my question now is, in terms of this online tool,
Mhm.
how exactly, I mean, it won't be exactly the same. I would
Right.
expect, yeah, so, what if people do both?
So we can't stop people from filling out both. And in fact, the most important thing that we've seen be effective in this process is offering the flexibility, where if someone wants to provide more feedback afterwards because they just think a little bit more about the topics after the events, they have a way
Sure.
to do that. One of the questions that Lindsay had sent me after one of your more recent task force meetings was, could we include a question at the beginning of the online tool that basically asks whether you attended the forum events? And I think that can help us, like, as we're just kind of assessing the responses that we get, we can look at that as an indicator of, how many people are submitting these responses without having gone to the events and purely giving their feedback online. So that's one thing we can do. But in terms of, we typically don't do anything as far as making it harder for people who have given feedback at the forum to not participate online. We'll still take their feedback.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah. But we will get a head count for the in-person events. So we will get an idea for roughly how many people were present at both events. And that will be part of the reporting in terms of when we actually start synthesizing the feedback that we receive. And then additionally, we will, when we kind of tabulate and begin, again, synthesizing and analyzing the feedback that we get, we'll look at total number of responses. And so I think it will become clearer when we provide you with a summary of what we have heard, just how we're kind of merging these two batches of data together. Essentially, we take all of the discussion question handouts that are provided to us at the community forum events, and we put them in SurveyMonkey so that everything is together in one place. The online tool is formatted through SurveyMonkey as well. So it's great. You'll have a raw appendix, which is a good resource, even if there are some people who are never going to read the whole thing, of feedback that's all in one place from both the events and from the online tool. Other questions?
I think the one other kind of discussion that came up question was whether or not, and maybe you just kind of partially answered that, we could have for the online tool, we may have, would we be able to have a few additional questions if we were looking to collect more?
Yeah, so this is it's tough. I think it depends on really like what we're talking about exactly here, because okay, I'll answer this in two different ways. There is value in having these the online tool and the community forum event questions to be relatively similar, or to essentially be the same in terms of just like it's a unified batch of data that we're receiving. The more questions we add, the more time on our end it is to report. And so there are limited resources for this project. And so if we were to add additional questions, I think we'd have to be really careful and just conscientious of what's missing and what really does need to be asked.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we were talking about a lot. I think we were just wondering if you're missing that in-person conversation component, can we try to gather some info, using the questionnaire online kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think it was anything huge. If anything, it was one. We talked about kind of some ranking of importance on items, so we can talk about that when we're looking at it.
Yeah, when we get to the discussion questions, draft 2, let's circle back to that. Other questions? Okay. Oh, and I have one more picture too. But again, stationed around the room. So what we need to know from you all. So I included a cover letter to go along with the list of station materials that were floating by all of you. And so that described a little bit about what we're looking for from you all. But we want your thoughts on the general direction of what you're seeing as far as some of the proposed content for posters, the maps, et cetera. We are working with Rob to address the comments that were provided to us at one of the March task force meetings on the map. So some of those minor discrepancies that were noted, for example, there were some missing trailheads on the recreation map. There were just a few things that needed to be rectified. And so we've been working with Rob to do that so that they're accurate for the community forum events and for when we publish them on the online tool. But we want your thoughts on the general direction of this packet of what you're seeing. Any comments and questions that you have on any of the facts, figures, and findings that seemed confusing or questionable or just elicited any kind of reaction that you think is important for us to know. And then ultimately, at the end of either this meeting or potentially next Monday's meeting, if we need, if you all need an additional meeting without us to move through each of the topics, we need really clear feedback and edits so that we can make changes and begin developing the materials. And you can feel confident that we're going to be able to do that and the information is going to resonate. So with that, I might actually stop sharing my screen really quick so I can see you all.
Liz, I have a few comments.
Yes.
Okay, so on the community services, we provide water and sewer to Enfield Village. I think it's a little bit larger area than that because the sewer goes all the way to the Canaan line.
Okay.
On Route 4 and goes out as far as the Lakeside condominiums on 4A. So there's a broader, I think you probably have the water and sewer maps, don't you?
Yes.
So I would just kind of reference those.
Okay.
And let the copy reflect that.
Yep.
Let's see, you talk about combining 4 existing facilities, police station, Enfield Center Village Station, Depot Street, and Union Street.
Mhm.
It was my understanding that the Enfield Center Fire Station was going to remain.
Yes, that's
Rob says yes.
so it'd be a 3 into 1.
Thank you.
Let's see, scrolling down, I'm hoping somebody on the historical can fact check this. I'm not sure what the Enfield Center Schoolhouse, what you're referring to there, but that just could be my lack of familiarity.
It's the one
Julie,
down
do you know?
across. It's the 2-story schoolhouse that's down here in Enfield Center across
Part
from the
of the-
meeting house.
Okay,
Field Center Triad.
all right.
Our little
You
spot.
learn something new every day.
Exactly. Let's see, we got that. Is Shaker Bridge Landing Park, is that Lakeside Park?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. That would be
No.
the name.
Joella is saying no.
No?
I don't think so. What, David, ask your question again?
Is the Shaker Bridge Landing Park another name for Lakeside Park?
Not
Where-
officially.
I've never
Which I
heard it
didn't
that
hear.
way.
What page is this on, David, that you're on?
Page 9, towards the
Okay.
bottom.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, is that not right?
I can chime in here. So it's super helpful to have this context because Zach and I kind of paired together on this, and he actually was able to pull that from some of the New Hampshire Granite database, and we were trying to filter through the relevant, because it really broke it down into like, here are all of your, boat launches down to like, just car top boats to, actual motorboat launches and really specific. So we kind of had to pull through that. So getting this type of feedback to see if like maybe that wasn't, you know what I mean? Maybe that wasn't
Yeah,
a separate facility. This is great.
yeah. So here in town, we know it as the Lakeside Park. And also there's a new, well, not a new, but a newly promoted access to the rail trail from Depot Street, right by the ambulance building or the current ambulance building. And we're trying to push that.
Okay, so we'll reference that.
Okay. Let me see what else I have highlighted. Okay. On, I don't know what page it is, but it's the one that says description of three-phase power.
Yes.
11.
Um, let's see. Okay, the way it's written, my read is that the solar farms, it says require a consistent supply of high energy loads. And in fact, and Phil, you might have a way to phrase this better. The solar farms are producing electricity. They're not a load.
Mm-hmm.
Phil, can you jump in and explain this a little bit
Yeah, that's
better than
true.
I can?
That's true. The power they produce requires three-phase. If you have like 100 kilowatt system, that requires three-phase in order to handle the power produced when the sun is shining brightly
Okay.
into the system. But that's going in, not coming out.
Okay, we can rework that.
And when you go down to the community power explanation, anybody, I think in New Hampshire, has the ability to choose their energy source. The community power plan gives you a less expensive source. And again, maybe Phil or somebody on the energy front can better explain that.
Yeah, the wording on that is not quite accurate.
Yeah, Joe, I'm really happy that you're on the call tonight, because if you actually have a community power, like a better explanation that you've been using to communicate with the public about this that we can use, that might feel more familiar to people and it's more on message with what you all have been communicating.
Yeah, we just started changing the language on that because it's misleading. So I will get back to you on that.
Awesome. I'll make a note of that.
But on that particular paragraph, it says Enfield is a participating community, and it should read in Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. It's different if it says what it is, what it does say.
Okay, great.
The other thing,
Joella, do we want to add that we're a founding member of the coalition?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Very good. And the coalition now has 59 communities.
Oh, way off.
Well, things changed.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
And so the wording on that, I will get back to you on.
Thank you.
And the other thing, since we're on that page, I don't mean to cut you off, David, but that page, the very bottom of it on page 12, I would suggest adding propane. It says with fuel, oil, kerosene, etc. I would say propane is a higher percentage of use than kerosene.
Yeah.
One thing I would love to add to this community power thing for Joellen and David are talking about it is that we were part of the founding original communities, but that this area in the Upper Valley was a hotbed because there were 4 conjoined communities that were in that original coalition, and that would be Hanover, Lebanon, Enfield, and Plainfield. And so I think that sort of speaks to something special that happens in this area. So might add that.
Top of the next page, which I guess is page 13, the second bullet, 15% are heated through electricity. Does that imply heat pumps or baseboard resistance?
We can look it up. That's through the American Community Survey.
Okay, because, you know, I know a lot of people in town are converting to heat pumps, mini splits.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look up. Usually the American Community Survey has some information on the categories that give more detail as to how they're categorized. So,
Okay, page 14, I think maybe Rob might have info on this. Our solar panels on the salt shed, that supplies more than just DPW, doesn't it?
Actually, Phil is the guy to talk to because Phil owns the system. So
All right,
Phil,
Phil.
tell us what we're powering.
Yeah, in a good year, when the sun's shining brightly and we don't get a pile of snow on it, yes, it produces enough power to cover the DPW, and then we push some off to one of the pump wells.
okay.
So it
Love
picks up,
the water
it picks up a little bit of the one well, I think, over on Lovejoy. The excess goes over there because it's a part of, it's in a group. We got a tiny group. The DPW and the wellhead is in the group. So then
Okay,
Liberty distributes excess power to the pump.
great.
Not a lot, but
Okay, we'll reference that.
Those are my comments. I'm gonna take off my editor's visor now and let somebody else talk.
I have some around, I'll go to the town services one first.
Okay.
So on page 4, you kind of have the facts, figures, and findings section. So it mentions Enfield has 10 municipal buildings. So the Public Works Department, and
Mhm.
when it mentions it includes highway and the divisions, cemetery really should belong under there.
Okay.
There, I mean, I'm there sometimes, but technically that's where people are directed to go for that.
Mhm.
So just to separate, and then fire EMS are obviously kind of together.
Yeah, I think that might have even been a mistake.
So then I'll go to where my knowledge is the strongest, which is recreation.
Okay.
Excuse me, before you go there, on
Mhm.
that list,
Yes.
I question the concept of a health department. We don't
Yeah.
really have a health department. We have a health inspector, and it's not a separate facility.
Okay, yeah, so this says Enfield has 10 municipal buildings with several departments housed in these facilities, including, but I hear what you're saying is that it's not really a department. All right, we'll figure out a good way to include the role, but make it a little bit more accurate about its presence, really.
Okay, I mean, and I understand, yeah. The thing is, though, it says 10 municipal buildings, and yet there are only 9 listed.
Actually, there's only 8 listed.
Yeah.
I can help you, Liz, with that. I think,
Yeah, what
I
are we
mean,
missing?
obviously, land use and economic development, I'm actually in the Public Works building, so you could put me in there. The
Yeah.
health inspector is in here too, so we can
Right.
fine tune that. I'll get together with you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is 10 right or is 8 right? And let's make them the same number, make sure that it's cross-referencing accurately.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Bridget.
So I would, on page 8, so under facts, figures, findings, I would remove the number of recreational programs offered because
Yes.
it's always changing.
Yeah,
So
and
over the
there's
years,
more.
we've offered many.
Yeah, more in the table than 10.
Yeah, so I would just kind of, you could just change that to say that over the years, many maybe are offered or have been offered to
Okay.
residents.
Numerous. Yep.
Or numerous. The in there it talks about other recreational programs offered in Enfield include, so Mascoma Youth Sports League I would remove that
Right.
because that's now
Yes.
under recreation.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
we'll mention that later, so great.
and we can, yeah. So I think it's important to note that's historically been there, just it's
Mhm.
now not. This Enfield Skating Club, it's not Enfield Skating Club, it's Mascoma Lake Skating Association.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's way longer than Skating Club. So when we're looking at okay. I guess we have the Parks and Recreation facilities. So I guess by definition on this one, when we're listing that, it's not just town, right? It's what's available in town. It's not just town run.
Mhm.
So I would look at okay, I have a questionable about the Mascoma Valley Regional Schools. Only Enfield Village School is within Enfield,
Mhm.
but so I don't know if I would count that under Parks and Recreation, but yes, we do use the school facilities. So maybe that's what we were thinking because they're used for like some of the adult stuff.
That's what yeah, so that was what our original thought was. We kind of assumed that might come up in conversation here.
Okay.
But so I'll let you all talk a little bit about what you think before we make a decision whether or not to include it in the table or maybe include it somewhere else.
Okay. And under Enfield Outing Club, I'd remove the shooting complex because it's just known as Enfield Outing Club. They don't
Great.
add that end part.
Great.
So going into where was the other part I saw? Oh, the bottom. So the programs on the bottom.
On
page 10.
Okay.
I guess I'd love to. I'm trying to think of how to reword that, whether it's like offered programs, offered
like
recreational programs in Enfield kind of thing. Because again, things change around.
Yeah.
It's hard because they're not all current. That's
great point. Yeah.
So
They're seasonal or right.
They constantly change, and then it just always depends. So, right, that's again the Mascoma Youth Sports League is there, which I think is maybe we put in parentheses and stay historically.
Yeah.
Mascoma Youth Sports League, Whaleback Mountain, and Disc Golf Day. It's so Whaleback Mountain, I would just put skiing.
Yes, we have the ski and ride program and the summer camp, but it's on the other column, which I know is confusing. We'll make sure that those would be together.
So if anything, I get rid of day and just say disc golf.
Okay, great.
They do a community day, but that is run with the Upper Valley Disc Golf Association, but they have a whole disc golf course now. So that's the recreation piece is that's going to be there.
Okay.
And I think the rest of this, we could also add, I don't know where you want to put it, but if it's under fitness programs or just maybe some adult, there's recreational adult volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also we'll call it basketball. They like to call it old man basketball, but we're not going to call it that. That's what it is. Yeah, I can't remember if they have like an age, like, they start at. While volleyball is, you just have to be an adult, so we're a little more lenient on that. But just so that way people kind of have that in their minds.
Great.
And I can look at the rest and see if I missed something, but those are ones that just kind of stood out so that we can get as accurate as possible. And
Liz,
See
another thing that I would throw in there, I just did a quick search and I don't see it coming up. Enfield is home to 2 varsity sports of Dartmouth College. Number
Okay.
one would be varsity sailing. They actually have a facility on Mascoma Lake called the Dartmouth Yachting Club, which is actually undergoing a $12 million renovation expansion down there. And then we also, up at Montcalm, the Dartmouth varsity women's and men's golf. That's now their home course for golf.
Great.
And then the Dartmouth, some of these people that are on with us, they may know more about this, but the Dartmouth Sailing Club in the summer sort of changes gears from varsity sailing for the college, and it becomes a little more of a community resource. You can get a membership off the street there, and you can go down there and use their facilities, like their beach and their dock. And I think they'll teach kids how to sail. There's those kind of things happening for the summer.
Yeah, they do have sailing lessons, I think is what they call them in the summer
Yeah.
for the kids. Like they can sign up for, and usually
It's all part of their physical education at Dartmouth. There's, they're one of few schools. They actually, you have to have swimming lessons if you go to Dartmouth College. They actually make you get swimming lessons if you don't know how to swim, which I think is awesome. That's a really cool thing that the school does. Like I said, it's very rare. Not a lot of schools do that. I can see Celia's got her hands up. Celia, you got to unmute. Celia, you got to unmute. Just push the little button that's got the
Okay,
mic.
I'm
There
okay
you go.
now, right?
There you go.
Yep.
You can
Gotcha.
hear me. I just want to follow up with Bridget and her remarks. I kind of agree with them, and I'm talking about Whaleback Mountain and the Mount Calm Golf Club. They're not part of our facilities, and I think it's very misleading to be in that as a facility.
Well, that's why I asked. It's
Enfield.
not it's something we have in Enfield, recreational opportunity. And that's why I was asking. So the list is both what we offer as a town and then what we have as a town that's available. So that, like, we don't do that Whaleback, but they're there.
What we could do is actually within the table group them so that the town-owned facilities are obvious, that they're clustered together, and that the other recreational facilities that are not town-owned are
That would
noted.
be good.
So yeah, we can do that.
We don't.
I
And I got one other one. I think I lost it. I just want to add on the aquifers on page 3.
Mhm.
I don't know, Rob, where you got all the aquifers or whoever got them, but there is the one on Route 4 and Maple Street. There's an aquifer there. Why isn't that not on that list?
We took this from the natural resource inventory.
Well, there is one. They don't all do the same thing. I
Rob.
know we've had it before, natural resource inventory. You mean that the plan that conservation did? Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about? I don't know why they missed that like that. So a lot of people have missed it. And because when they built Jake's, there was a lot of concern over it. That whole area there is all water, but it also protects an aquifer. So we're always looking for water.
Mhm.
That's what I'm just wanted to point out.
Okay.
That's all I had. That's it.
I had one page
Go ahead,
9.
Okay.
So under the bullet point, Hughes Park is Enfield's primary recreation facility in town. I don't know that I would say that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a little.
And I'm trying to decide if we just say it's because it's the most central one, but like the
Right.
baseball field, for example, we lend that out to the school to use. So our recreational baseball, softball happens at Shaker Rec Field.
Oh, funny. I didn't
Yeah,
know
so
that.
it's like the weird. That's why I was like, well, I mean, but it is the most central because it has the park there and the play structures and everything. So it's kind of like a. I just don't know if I'd use the term primary recreation facility. I might not use that part. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll let you wordsmith.
Wordsmith. Yeah, I did put most centrally located, but maybe there might be a better way to phrase this in general.
Liz and Crystal, I just noticed one thing on the that little chart of page 3, lakes and ponds in Enfield.
Yep.
See, you do have a specification of acres in Enfield on Spectacle Pond.
Yes.
We should probably do the same for Eastman Pond because we only have the very, very northernmost tip of Eastman Pond. The majority of it is in Grantham.
Could you provide us the acreage that's within,
Yep.
unless if it's in the natural resource inventory, I can start there first, but
Yeah, I can do that. We'll get you that.
Do you want typos too?
we're gonna do a full, because we're gonna be formatting these posters, we're gonna do a full review. However, if you really caught a lot and you want to send them to us directly, you can.
Just saw one right under that chart of the lakes and ponds. Canaan is spelt wrong.
Thank you. I'll just circle that so that it's really obvious for me to fix.
So I had a couple.
Yes.
Are you ready for? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. The energy and sustainable on page 11.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to ask Rob on this. The first sentence under three-phase power says making it ideal for things like big electric motors and also development.
Yeah. Great call.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that sentence about that was raised earlier about requiring a consistent supply of high energy loads.
It seems like yeah, it needs to be rewritten.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing, under the introduction, the poster, we are not a commission, we're a committee.
Thank you.
And I'm going to get back to you on the community power stuff.
Yeah.
And I mentioned about the propane. Under electric vehicles, my question was, is the EV charger at Mount Calm, is that public?
Rob, do you know?
I think if you show up there to golf, you can use it, but I don't think it's necessarily because it's kind of a private club.
I know, because I've seen it, because there's an app that you can use to locate chargers, and it's come up, but I've never been sure if you could actually go there and do it. Maybe I ought to try it, see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm not sure that it's that important whether it's public or not. It was just curiosity.
Yeah.
The next little paragraph there. Last sentence says improving insulation and LED lighting in the DPW facility. We also improved or provided LED lighting in the community building. So
Great.
that should be added. The other thing was, for me, it was a little confusing. The section under statewide energy information,
Yeah.
kind of in the middle of it. The one that says the transportation sector
Mhm.
follows the residential sector closely.
Yeah, I
And
can see why.
was, and each of these sectors rather than those. Because
Yep.
that's where I got confused a little bit. The next section, I had to read it several times, and I think part of that was because it was focusing on New Hampshire, but then it also included New England,
Okay. Yeah, we
which is
can
important, but it's just,
to flow a little clearer.
yeah. That's it.
Okay, great. That's really good feedback.
Thank you.
Liz, you've got motorcycles rolling by.
Do you hear them?
Yeah. So at first I thought it was thunder. I was like, wow, she's got thunder going on.
Downtown Plymouth, it's popular, popular
Probably
place.
gets worse and worse as the weather gets nicer and nicer.
Yeah. Imagine Bike Week.
Yeah.
All right, I've been sitting with one, but I got one more on recreation. Sorry, on 10.
Yeah.
As someone that plays cornhole, I always have a hard time calling it a fitness program.
Okay, fair.
Doesn't take a lot, but I would take it off of there because it's something that has periodically been offered not by the town if someone steps up to do the rentals. So I would just take it off because it's definitely
Not really a town.
not at all a town thing. It's definitely been privately.
Not that all of these are town necessarily, but
Right.
if it's, yeah, if it's really inconsistent.
Yeah. And yeah, but okay.
Other thoughts? How many task force members are not present at this meeting?
See, Lindsay's not here. Dan Regan not here. Is that it?
Is Brad still on? No, he's not.
Brad's not on. Nope.
Yeah. So
I think we got everybody
I think
but
that's it.
Lindsay and Dan.
So we can talk about maybe, I don't know if it's more appropriate at the end of the meeting or now, but we can talk about what the best way is for us to get feedback from those who are not present. And whether that warrants another meeting next week or not. We're happy to take feedback digitally, but of course, that means we're anticipating that it's relatively easy feedback that wouldn't warrant larger conversation with the group. And
I would offer to reach out to them tomorrow with an email and just be like, hey, we had the meeting last night. It was good, wide-ranging discussion about the documents that Resilience and Liz and Crystal shared with us. If you have any comments, questions, changes, additions, subtractions, let us know. Gotta give them the opportunity. Speak
Great.
now or forever hold your peace.
Liz, I have one thing to add on the library.
yes, what page is this on, Shirley?
Children's programs, story time. We
Yes.
also time every week for Legos.
Great.
And actually, I was thinking while we're adding, sorry, yet again, all these other groups that do things. The Enfield Village Association offers the Shaker 7, which is a road race. and hometown holidays, which they partner with different groups and some with recreation. So they're kind of think that might sums it up. I'm trying to bring back all the different pieces.
Great.
How about Old Home Days? Where does that fit in?
Yeah, is there a separate Old Home Day committee or?
Oh, yeah, there is.
Okay.
While we're listing all of the committees and groups in town. Why not?
Yeah, I mean,
Teamwork.
if we're including, other annual events, I think that it definitely makes sense to include that.
Yeah.
As far as the recreation program table goes, I would also say that if folks do think of other programs that are not on here as you're talking to your spouses or your kids or, getting sparked in other ways, to feel free to email us any missing programs over the next week.
Okay.
Because, yeah, this one always tends to be a category that feels like it's always evolving and we're like never actually getting the perfect snapshot.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, can I just say, I think you guys have done a tremendous job at listening, because it's just, it's like drinking from a fire hose. You're just getting all this information, and it's
our
can be
job.
overwhelming.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. And our job will be to make sure that it's not too much. So as we move through this, we'll kind of have to go through the process of like winnowing if we need to. We want to make sure it's the right amount of information for people to absorb and not just be like, whoa. But hopefully it's more helpful than not. And you guys will have the materials, like they will be the towns. So you can, if you ever want to, put up the posters in the library or the town offices or anywhere, you can. They are interesting for if it's a place where residents are frequenting, to just learn a little bit more about the town.
I see, Celia, you got your hand up. You're going to have to unmute again for us, if you don't mind.
I got it this time.
Thank you.
Anyway, I don't know. I was asked to group this. What is not there is anything on drama theater. Don't we have connections to North Country Community Theater and the high school for
No,
kids to do anything? There's no drama camp?
there's no camp currently. There hasn't been for a few years. But the kids in school can do any theater programming that the school's offering.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
unfortunately haven't had camp for a few years now.
Okay, just checking. It'll
Yeah.
be on there next year.
Yes.
We'll get it
Right.
going.
Hopefully, I'm still hoping it comes back. I don't know if it is. That's a Kevin question. And then I know that I did. Rob, did you get that the whole Excel document from?
Yes,
the
and I'll
survey?
share that with Liz and Crystal. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely get rid of the other towns, which it's all organized anyways, but it'll help show some of the other programming, but I don't think all of that needs to get listed, because like I said, that's why I wanted to take off that 10, just because there's so many that have happened.
Right.
So do we have in here about the Shaker Museum offering classes?
So we do have the Shaker Museum in the table, and we have seminars, workshops is kind of how they're listed.
Yeah.
The Shaker Museum also have the History Alive program.
Okay.
Too. And also annual Shaker Forum.
Don't they also have a music camp?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good to list.
trumpets.
Yeah.
Okay.
They also have a garden. That
Yes.
They teach the gardening with herbs.
Great.
That's a big deal there.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the poster or map content? Okay, great. We'll send out an email to the task force members that aren't here to collect their feedback as well.
Yep.
And we will move forward with drafting the posters and the maps, which will take us a little bit of time to do. And so because of that, because of the tight timeline, most likely we will be circulating and just kind of double checking content with Rob and the chairs. And all of you will see the posters and the maps at the forums because of the timeline that we're working with. We have to make sure that we get them done with enough lead time to print them, to do an internal review in our office, and et cetera. And so it'll take us a little bit of time to get them produced. Is this a good time to turn to the questions, discussion questions? Okay, great.
Sure.
So,
For the
yes,
sake-
Shirley.
Summer concerts.
Yes, great, thank you. That was one that the recreation director mentioned to us. Okay. And who put, is that a town?
Summer,
Shaker,
Okay,
right, Shirley?
yes.
Yeah. And the movie in the park actually is a town. That's a recreation and police department
oh, that's great.
program offering.
Yeah, the concerts are Shaker Museum.
Yes. Yeah.
On
Great.
lawn.
Great.
Okay, for real. To the. It
All
never
right.
ends.
So the questions. So we have revised the questions based on feedback that Lindsay provided to us, which was a summary of what was talked about at the last task force meeting that you had that we were not at. And so we'd love to take this opportunity to collect any remaining feedback or comments that you have. And
One thing that I can remember, Liz, was there was some talk about, because you have some of those that are like long lists.
Yep.
We had talked a little bit about maybe rank choice. Did she mention that, Lindsay, in her message to you?
Yeah, so I did change some of those questions so that they are ranked choice now.
Okay, great.
So like an example would be on question 3 for heritage and preservation and question 3 for conservation. Those are both ranked choice, and actually so is question 3 under town services and facilities.
Awesome. Great.
So we basically have people rank the choices with 1 being the most important. And they can decide how many they want to rank. Some might only rank 3, some might rank the whole list.
Yep.
Looking through them.
Yes.
Number 3 for the heritage and preservation section.
Yes.
I'm just gonna ask you because you're here. The
Yeah.
cemeteries question.
Yes.
So I get so mine is kind of a when it says what historic and cultural resources should be preserved or protected in Enfield. Do we want to list cemeteries there? Because it's not really an option. We can't let people destroy them.
Yeah, I totally see the it might not be necessary to include that in the list because they're inherently.
Yeah. And
Yeah, look-
I'm just sitting here going,
Sure.
am I opening that door to people who maybe have opinions that are or are not doable based on budgets or state law? But
And while we're on this list, especially if there's anyone from Heritage that's present, is there anything we're missing? I mean, we do have an other category that allows anyone to, if they have a specific resource in mind, et cetera, but. We try to include the big categories that most people think about or that are unique to Enfield, but let us know if you think of anything else that should be added to the list.
I would like clarification on that. The heritage and preservation, the last question. It mentions the town catalog. I'm not sure what that is.
I believe document, that's how I interpreted that word, was document. And I know it's already happening. And my assumption was that this was a question that was that Lindsay had sent us as being considered to ask as part of this station. And I took it as gauging whether people see value in documenting and promoting heritage and history in general, even though we do know that the town is already doing it.
I guess she's thinking of it as a verb, and I thought of it as a noun.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Joelle.
Right.
Yes.
Could I suggest inventory as a totally different word that is not going to be confused?
Yeah, and I actually like that even better than document, I think, because that also implies there could potentially be more inventory work that needs to be done. So I like that word a lot, David. Other comments?
It's looking good. What do you think?
Not for me.
More thunder.
I know. Okay, great. All right, should we move on to the community forum event planning aspect of the agenda? So we wanted to talk a little bit about advertising with you all. So I'm gonna share my screen again here. Okay, so we are 1 month out. So this is really the best time to begin getting the word out. It's not too early where people hear about it and then they forget. So for the next however many weeks it is until May 9th, we're hoping that word spreads about these two events so that we get a good turnout. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about advertising with you all, what we've been working on our end, and allow you all to have a conversation in general about what we're missing in terms of ways to get the word out to residents. So we have been working with David largely to develop a design for the mailer, which we're currently drafting right now. And so we anticipate having a draft finalized, and then we're going to be coordinating getting that mailer printed and distributed with the post office this week. And that's, David, do you want to describe a little bit more about that as far as who's going to be receiving it?
Okay, for those of you who were on the master plan task force, part 1, we did a mailing to every mailbox and door and post office box in the Enfield and the Enfield Center zip codes. It's called Every Door Delivery. And what we do is we print up roughly 2,000 pieces. They'll be full color, 2 sides. And we bundle them into, I think it's bundles of 50. We deliver them to the post office along with a check, and they deliver them for us. We found that to be very, very effective. So I think it's gonna run about $1,700, if I remember correctly, for both printing and mailing. And I think it's well worth the investment, and we had budgeted for, I think, at least 2 mailings on the zoning rewrite, the HOP grant. And I think we had included 1 mailing in our budget for the master plan rewrite. So with a little bit of budget shifting or not, actually, I think we've got more than enough money to do 1 mailing.
You guys like to hang out with money, huh?
Yeah, we're on meeting. Get out of here. So that's basically the strategy. It worked before. I think it will work again.
That's great. Yeah,
Well-
and I'm sorry, go ahead. Was that Bridget?
Yeah, so Lindsay had mentioned that she did a lot of the bundling. Do we have a plan as far as does this task force need to get together and help with batches of 50 bundling or?
Yeah, we'll be looking for volunteers. Perhaps we spend, 4 or 5 people, excuse me, sit around the conference table or somebody's dining room table, count out, bundles of 50, put rubber bands around them, and, it'll be short work for many hands. I know that Lindsay and her mom did it the first time, and I don't want to stick it to them alone for this time.
Mhm.
So when we get near that point, we'll be asking for volunteers, but keep it in the back of your heads that we would like, I don't know, I'll say 2 hours, then it'll probably take less.
What are we looking at for content, David?
Liz is heading up the content part of it. It's going to have to address both the master plan task force, activities and whatever Steve Whitman is planning for this, concurrent, event on the housing pop grant. So I'll let Liz fill us in on that because she probably knows more than I do.
So yes, you're totally right, David. We're going to have information on the mailer that communicates to people that this is a place where they can provide feedback on the 2 events are places where they can provide feedback on the phase 2 master plan update and what the topics are going to be that they can explore, as well as the HOP project. And so Steve has already developed, very similar to what I presented to all of you tonight, that list of poster content and maps. He provided me with a very similar list of different, definitions and information and data that he would like presented through these kind of graphic materials, and is developing questions with Mark to get feedback from people on for that particular project. So it will be its own station. It'll probably be a little bit more of a robust, bigger station, but we will have a similar aesthetic so that they'll be separate projects, obviously, and it will be obvious in that way, but they'll still look like they are cohesive to some degree. So that's the HOP project. In terms of other content for the mailer, we'll make sure to have all of the most important information that people want to or need to see in order to attend an event: the 2 dates, the times, the website, which we would like to add information about the 2 events to the website. So that's on that. I just added that to my list today. And so we'll work with Rob to do that. And we also received a copy of the mailer design that was done for phase 1. And so we understand a little bit about the aesthetic that was used, and we'll try to kind of piggyback off of that as we design the mailer for this particular part of the project.
Yeah, I especially like the photographs that you had of what the event would look like with the posters in the background and the people. That really caught my eye, you know, saying, hey, this is cool.
That's good to know.
It resonated with me. And if you could find a place on the mailer with a picture like that to show people what it's going to look like, I think would be helpful. I respond to pictures better than I do a bunch of words. I know that.
Yeah, and I think most people are like that too. So I think that's a really good comment.
Do we have a QR code going on there?
Yes, so we should, so that people can access the website quick and easy through their phones if they want. We'll have the logo, which does, I believe, have the actual web link for anyone that wants to type it in. But the QR code is definitely the way to go.
When you send out, well, I get you had mentioned how we could help spread the word. So
Yes.
to like stay on message, I would basically say as soon as information goes out, like the town newsletter won't go out until, May 1st, but if the listserv stuff could go out first and it could be the same message. I don't know who's putting it on the listserv, but I'm happy to, I'm just saying I'll wait personally until I have that to share.
Yeah. So we, it's great that you mentioned that because I just talked to Rob earlier today about the listserv, and we were going to develop some really simple copy that can be posted to the listserv very easily, and you guys can feel free to modify it if you want to make it more personal, but just at least give a base message so that it says, what the event is, where, etc., very easily for you to copy and paste.
Liz, under other, for phase one, we used a whole bunch of lawn signs. We pretty well saturated the town. And I think I'd like to do that again. And that just sort of alerts people that there's something going on.
That's great. What kind of role would you like us to play within that, David?
I don't think you need to play any role because they are already printed and they're upstairs.
Great.
This might be another occasion where we ask committee members to take 10 of them and distribute them around town.
Great, that's awesome. They're already printed.
They don't have dates on them, right?
No,
We were
Just the website.
just
Perfect.
the website. And maybe the tagline, your voice, your whatever it says.
Yep.
Your community, your voice, your vision, your voice, as emblazoned on our pens.
Okay, great. Is there anything else we're missing?
Well, about the newsletter, that information would need to be submitted by mid next week.
I will make sure it's in. It's in this month's newsletter already. I've already got it in April's, and I'll make sure it gets put in for May.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Another thing I would just throw out there is that, this group, if you guys maybe take a little time to personally invite some people in your email contacts or your address books or whatever, I think it would really, it would hold a lot more meaning if it came from you guys and say, 10 of your closest confidants in your contacts, just say, hey, we really want you to come to this. Please come. Like a little bit of personalization would really go a long way too. I think that's very valuable.
I completely agree with that. And I mean, even just like mathematically, even if folks actually personally invited and got 5 to 10 people, that in and of itself could be like 50 people.
Exactly.
And I don't know if this is covered under the listserv, but sometimes we find that reaching out directly to the committee or like town boards or committees, or even just local nonprofit organizations in town, reaching out to them directly and inviting them, like whether it's just an email or
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll ask committee members, like board members, to maybe make an announcement before their, planning board meeting or zoning board meeting, to say, hey, this is going on in town.
Yep.
Just a suggestion.
Awesome.
Good idea.
Great. So we'll work on getting the mailer design finalized as soon as possible. We did distribute a flyer to you all that you're more than welcome to use in terms of just posting on social media, as well as hanging in public places. I don't believe I received any feedback on that flyer as far as edits. And so if there are edits, I'm happy to make them with a very quick turnaround time. But I don't think I was I think I gave that to you before the meeting that I was not at. So let me know ASAP if it's not at tonight, if there's any changes that you'd like to see made to that, if you want to use it.
I don't recall it at all.
Here, let me stop sharing my screen really quick, and I will pull it up really fast, just so you can, it won't take you very long to have a reaction, I'm sure. It's just a one-pager. Do others not remember it either?
I was just looking, I didn't see it, so I might have also missed it.
Maybe just send it around again.
I can send it around, Liz. I'll find it.
So this is the gist of it.
Oh, good.
And so it has a QR code to the website, and then it lists the topics for those who, and it includes housing, which is one of the topics that's being explored within the housing initiative.
Yes, this would be good to bring to other committee meetings.
Yeah, feel free to distribute widely. And if you want to take, a day or so to look at it, I'm happy to make changes. But I know that, we'll do it in a timely way so that you all can start using it quick.
Liz, I think the only thing that I would comment on the flyer, it's not clear whether these are organized programs, and you should expect, or attendees should expect, to show up at the start and leave at the end time, or whether it's a drop in and spend 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. And maybe you could clarify that.
Absolutely, David. That's great feedback. We'll add some kind of disclaimer message that just communicates to people very succinctly what to expect in regards to that. Okay, great. So wow, we're moving through this agenda pretty efficiently. So now at this point we're on logistics here. So one thing I wanted to know is that the welcome at the beginning of the community forum events, typically we ask the chair or chairs if they would like to open the event and just thank everyone for attending. And so David, I was just wanted to ask if that was something you and or Lindsay would want to do. I know that you both mentioned one of you would be available for either community forum event.
I think Lindsay's doing the Thursday and I'm doing the Saturday.
Great.
Put them down.
Put me down.
Great. We are coordinating equipment and tables and things like that with Rob, and it seems like the space in general is really well equipped for all of that. So we'll be meeting our needs that way. And aside from spreading the word about the events, spreading the word about the online tool later, that will be big as well, and attending. We want, of course, all of the task force members to be present. And aside from floating and being a task force member, you might get some questions about the work that you're doing on this project, but also participating. We want your feedback as a resident as well. So we encourage you to participate in the event as well. Okay, great. That was everything that we prepared for you all tonight. Which I'm shocked. I'm like an hour and a half. That's pretty good.
That's awesome. I love it.
Are there any other closing remarks from anyone?
Liz,
Yeah.
do we have some time together tomorrow just to go over some of the logistics of website and printing? What does your tomorrow look like?
My tomorrow is actually pretty open. So let me see here. I am
Mornings
available.
are good for me. Afternoons, I'm in Concord.
10 a.m. I can do.
Let's do 10.
That sounds great.
You want to do Zoom or just a phone call?
I think a phone call should be fine.
Okay. I have your number. I'll give you a call at 10.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Good
Yeah,
meeting.
thank you all so much. And for reviewing the materials with such a tight turnaround time. I know it's not ideal and I really appreciate it.
David, are we going to have a meeting next week?
That's a good question. Liz, will you have stuff for us to look at by next week?
Not by next week. We're going to
Okay.
be spending the next few days really trying to get these advertising materials together. We'll start on the posters and maps, but we won't have anything by that point.
Okay. Task force members feel the need to get together next week? No? Then we will not have a meeting next week.
Yeah, if the need arises, we could certainly do something similar to what we're doing tonight. As a virtual, it's a selectmen's meeting on the 6th. It's the first select board meeting in May. We could do something similar to this if needed. So we'll play it by ear.
I will also send out this PowerPoint to Rob, so that you all have access to it, just because it has the agenda for the events and you can just keep it in your materials.
Awesome.
And
Well, thank you, everybody.
Great.
Hope everybody has a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going skiing in Utah.
Again?
No, it's just my background there.
Oh, okay.